We begin tonight with breaking news that could shed light on what happened almost a week ago as one of the worst natural disasters in recent memory began to unfold. Dispatch audio from Central Texas about a half hour before the first emergency warning was issued for the hardest hit county along the Guadalupe River. Now, the first call we have is from a firefighter at 3:37 a.m. local time. The calmness of his voice is remarkable, all things considered.
Yes, ma'am. Just for your 43, the Guadalupe is starting to come up, and Shoemaker is no longer passable at this time.
That's the Guadalupe River rising, and one of the main streets flooded. And from that point on, as the audio shows, problems were growing fast.
Respond to 2029, Highway 39, 2029, Highway 39. It's going to be for a water rescue. House callers, house flooded. We're getting multiple calls off of 39. People are stating their houses are flooding. We're trying to advise them to get to higher area.
Now, the next piece of audio is of what we reported on last night, a firefighter requesting an emergency alert be issued to the community, and the dispatcher not able to make that call.
Is there any way we can send a code red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground or stay home?
10-4 standby. We have to get that approved with our supervisor.
Well, as we reported last night, it would be 90 minutes from that call to when Kerrville's mayor told the Texas Tribune that he finally received a code red alert. Now, during that time, the Guadalupe River would overflow in a wall of water several stories high at its peak, and the 911 calls would just keep coming.
We received a phone call at our fire station to have a lady, she's frantic. She's at Casa Bonita, 117 Corto Way or Casa Bonita Lodges, and she said her children are on top of one of the cabanas and they're trapped.
Well, the area is home to many summer camps, as you know. This one, boys rode out the worst of it in the rafters of their cabin when water reached the top of their bunks. Camp Mystic for girls, though, was, of course, the hardest hit. This is a new image of some of the evacuation efforts early on. In a moment, we'll be joined by one of the staffers who was there that night and took this photo. But as would become clear, though, 27 campers and staffers, many of the campers as young as 8, tried to get out and didn't make it. And when daylight came, a few hours later, the true dimensions of it all became clear. In addition to all the dead, dozens and dozens of people missing. And tonight, they still are. Upwards of 160 people, in addition to the 120 plus fatalities. And as to that dispatch audio tonight, the man who recorded it and helped install Kerr County's Code Red system spoke with CNN's Aaron Burnett about the timing of the alerts that followed.
So are you saying as early as 3:27 a.m. that things could have played out very differently in terms of alerts and code reds and frankly, just to be blunt, hundreds possibly of lives saved?
Well, it's too late for Hunt. The water's up, and the volunteer fire department guy's been there. He knew it was coming because he's awake and he's sitting in his truck looking at it. But the water's come up, and the wall of water is heading down to Ingram. So you hear some radio traffic in a little bit that's going to warn people that warn to tone out Ingram that they need to start evacuating the RV park downriver. And I fully believe that a really quick action could have, and I'm not going to hindsight it all, but a quick action could have helped people downriver. But at 3:30, once it hit 4:30, it was just too late. The code red would have been ineffective, in my opinion.
Well, for more on the timeline, we're joined by CNN's Shimon Prokupecz, who is in Kerr County. So, Shimon, we know that the National Weather Service sent a flash flood warning just after 1 a.m. early on the morning of July 4th. Have local officials explained if they were monitoring the weather in the hours between when that warning went out and when they started to send alerts out to residents?
No, they've not, Anderson, and that's the key thing in all of this. It wasn't until hours later when you hear from city officials, one of them was running, another one gets woken up, much later than 1 o'clock when the flooding is actually occurring. And I think that is what's so significant about that audio that we just heard, is that everything that audio tells us is that by the time authorities were in the midst of this, they were dealing with this, it was already too late. People were already in danger, and they were surprised by all of this. The people, the community, was because all of this happened in the middle of the night, and we have no information from any of the authorities here on the local level, the county officials, the city officials, that any of them were monitoring the weather at 1 in the morning, at 2 in the morning, at 3 in the morning, when days before the Texas Department of Emergency Management was putting out press releases telling people, beware, this is coming. There could be a concern here. We have no accountability from locals as to what they were doing, how they were preparing, and whether or not they were communicating with state officials who were having these concerns, Andersons. And that is the thing. That is the key now here. What were they doing? How were they preparing? Were they anticipating any of this? Were they in communication with the weather services, any meteorologists, any people down and up the river to see what was going on? And so far, there is nothing here from the officials on that.
I understand you're in a hard-hit area right now that only a few media outlets have been able to get access to before. What are you seeing?
Well, Anderson, it's just shocking. We are lucky enough to sort of tell these stories because this community wants this story told, because this area has been cut off from public access by the Texas Department of Public Safety, the state police here. This is Bumblebee Hill. It's in Ingram, but I would just want to show you here, Anderson, the devastation here. This is, you know, not really that close to the river, but these are all the homes that suffered from the water damage. You see all of the destruction and the garbage and people starting to clean up their homes. People were on the roofs of these homes as the floodwaters were rising, riding out the storm to try and survive. I want to just quickly show you one other thing, Anderson, just to show you the power of this river and what was happening here. Here's how this went. This river that's 39. So it's on the other side of that road. It went over that road, through this creek, up the back way here, all the way into this house, Anderson. And quickly, one more thing I want to show you. This here is the water line. This is the water line into this home. The people were sleeping. There were 8 people in this home, including kids, and they rode out the storm. They were able to get up because of the noise from trees breaking. They realized that the weather had turned, that the water was rising. It was in their home to their waist. They quickly grabbed everyone. There were 8 people in this home, and they survived on this roof. They rode out for hours on the roof. This family called 911, and they were told there was nothing at that point that they could do for them, that they were just to get to the highest point possible. I spoke to this family. They are thankful. They let us into their home. They let us into their property. They are just thankful that they survived. And now they're just trying to rebuild as many in this small community, because no one expected that the waters would rise in such a way. I mean, this house, when they built this house, it was even built higher by them so that they could avoid any potential flooding. And even that didn't work. And that water went across the street into all of those homes. Just, you know, Anderson, just utter
incredible
devastation here. And it's just so sad to see all this, Anderson. Just so sad.